to a panel. We've had a great discussion in the live stream chats. I have a whole group of questions, but before I dive in, Patrick, any thoughts or things you want to say before we begin? I can't hear you, Patrick. Can you hear?
There we go. I can hear you now. Yeah,
There you
I
go.
could hear
Okay.
you. You didn't hear me. But all I can
Okay.
say is wow, just wow. We've set out to achieve an outcome. We've done it. And I think this is the first time that we see a comprehensive look of what's going on in the world, how people can make sense of it, where they can take it from here, why they need to be prepared, etc. It just wow. We've hit the ball out of the park.
Well, we're glad you're pleased. Okay, so let's dive in. First question. Um, One question, and you said, Patrick, that technocracy revolves around the use of energy. We all have studied, observed what's been happening for the last at least 100 years on breakthrough energy. We know a great deal of energy technology has been suppressed. How does breakthrough energy figure into what is happening now and what might happen once the control grid snaps into place? Anybody
Hmm.
want to take that? David.
Yes, so I mean, these are just my views, but I've recently published a defense of Judy Wood's work on the destruction of the Twin Towers, and the subtitle of that book refers specifically to free energy technology. Now, one of the themes that has come up today several times in relation to technocracy is the idea of finite amounts or having a closed system which must be managed supposedly by the technate, by the elite rulers who must manage all of our lives. And we see this in various different ways, be it peak oil theory, for example, finite resources, environmental problems, and so on. It always calls for global centralized control. Now, what happens then if all of that is a founding myth? What happens if there is, in fact, such thing as free energy technology, or even abiotic oil, something about which I don't know? But if these things exist, what happens if there actually is the possibility of limitless abundance in the world? These are the things that people need to know about because it really exposes the very foundation of the control system.
Absolutely. You brought up your Substack on the 9/11 or the technology used to dustify the buildings in 9/11. And one of the things that clearly, and there's discussion in the chat about this, if that kind of technology existed in 2001, what kind of invisible weaponry and technology have we had since? And so I think that Substack and sort of the issues of 9/11 is are very instrumental to the discussion that we're having today. Anybody want to comment on that?
Could I go quickly and then bring Lissa in?
Yeah, please do, because that was a fantastic Substack, David.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, part of this again has to do with perception management and what the public actually believes to be possible or imagines is scientifically and technologically feasible. And so when you understand the history of classified military technology and the fact that they seem to be decades ahead at any given time, then it requires a large degree of intellectual humility when thinking about what is and is not possible. So, in that context, when we come to bio nanotechnologies that are syringe injectable into human bodies, capable of going into brains and interfacing with the internet and so on, of course, to the ordinary person, that might sound like crazy talk. But actually, when you look at the evidence, as we have done, and as Lissa in particular described in her paper, these things are not insane. If you have that commitment to accuracy that Lissa described, then you have to take these kind of things seriously.
So one of the questions from really a brilliant poster in the chat. It's quite a wonderful group. It's about the Sustains Act. Is there anyone here who is familiar? Patrick, you're the American with us. Is there anybody here who's familiar with the Sustains Act? The USDA just had a comment period, and what they're proposing is a follow up to natural asset companies where they define something as natural processes in a place. So a natural process would be photosynthesis, or a natural process would be bee pollination. And what they're saying is the federal government should have jurisdiction over the natural processes on your property and be able to ultimately, we anticipate, appoint corporations or contractors who could oversee and apply regulatory compliance to all these natural processes on your property. Anybody want to comment on that or on property rights and the sort of
Absolutely.
land grab
Absolutely.
and sneaking up on property rights?
Absolutely. From the get-go in 1932, property rights were denied as a human right. This has always been written into the Constitution of technocracy from day one. So we see this today, the attack on private property all over the world. It doesn't matter whether it's land issues, sometimes ownership of physical things like cars, etc. And now we understand it's coming to the body level as well. We ask the question, in fact, we know for 25, 30 years now that genetic modification companies like Monsanto, Bayer, et cetera, have been issuing patents on genetically modified seeds and then getting ownership and licensing rights to farmers to farm those seeds. It's crazy. Well, when will this cartel finally reveal the plan to take ownership over the genetic modification that's happening in humans as well? So it's top to bottom. You either have property rights or you don't. The ultimate property right that we have is the right to our own body. And this is being broken down today as we see.
So another question that came up was, I don't think we've used the word. We've described the impact on life expectancy. I think Patrick, you ran the video of Larry Fink saying that we've now created a new model where we can grow the economy in a shrinking population. Um, Certainly hinting to what the cartels are up to. But we haven't used the word depopulation. And so the question is, we know we're watching a system that's pushing for total control. We know we see falling life expectancy. We know we see lower rates of fertilization. So, in essence, sterilization. Are we looking at full blown depopulation?
I will say yes. Anybody else?
It's also, as I was drawing out in that talk, a theme throughout transhumanism, both in the academic literatures and the military literatures, and it's so much the inverse of the enhancement and the living forever that people associate it with. I mean, most people, when they talk about transhumanism, one of the first things that they'll say is that it's about living forever, when really, when you look at it time and time again, it's about post-human world, human demise, humans becoming a thing of the past, not needing humans, which makes sense if it's about control. 8 billion people are a lot harder to control than a lot fewer, and there is that constant refrain of that humans just aren't needed. So it's certainly a common thread throughout all of the transhumanist literature.
I should mention we do have tech billionaires saying they're going to live to 145. And I know one of the things we discovered, Elsa von Hamlin discovered when she did her deep dive on pharma food, was some of the pharma food technology was really a cover for doing more research on life extension technologies. And so we almost have a bifurcation of some planning on living
Mm.
very long lives and depopulation going on. Okay, well
Mm.
let me turn to another question, and that is, um, and I think it was David you pointed out, or someone pointed out the satanic. Who pointed out the satanic? Um, sort of satanic things going on in the culture. I think it was you, David.
I mentioned the
Anyway, but
attack on Christianity.
right, the attack on Christianity. So one of the questions is all this bizarre insertion of satanic and occult references into culture simply a way of covering up? Is it a distraction to keep us from really seeing what's going on with the real development of an infrastructure to do extraordinary control, including at the mind and body level? Is this a distraction?
No, I think it goes deeper than that. I think they do have a genuine commitment to destroying Christian values. And when you look at the evil measures which are being carried out, I think they have to have that commitment. And I think there's too much of this messaging that's being uncovered increasingly for this to be an accident or a mere distraction. I think there's a fundamental level at which those behind this actually believe in this kind of thing.
I think
Okay,
what
so
I would
now
add, I think I
go,
would add to
Patrick.
that we see the expression of religion in the transhuman and the technocracy movement altogether. However, they have professed atheism from the get-go. They do not believe in an intelligent creator, for instance. They believe that we just happen to come along as a collection of atoms and so on. This is basically a mechanistic view of the whole world, including humans as well. We see this religion, however, and everybody's religious. We have to face that first. Everybody has some type of religion, religious proposition. We see now that this religious expression is leaking out finally of this technocracy and transhuman movement. It all is always been there, but we haven't seen it openly. Now it's rearing its ugly head, if you will, and we're going to see more of it as time goes on. And yes, it is decidedly anti-Christian. It's anti, you know, uh, our value system that we've had in our country, especially for so many years. Europe is, by and large, already dried up on this, but we can see the persecution of Christians coming at the hands of technocrats.
So
I
I'm
think
going to jump in. Oh, go. Please go.
yeah, I think another way to look at it is to have conversations with uh, just people around you. A number of my colleagues are, atheists, and some of their responses are really interesting and ironic. That when you look at the efforts of the technocracy to modify our genes, our genetic, you know, the genome, uh, the response is often, who do they think they are? They're playing God or something, which is interesting and ironic. But it seems to me that maybe one of the best ways to understand what's happening globally is to broaden your lens and to ask this question, which it seems more and more people are asking. uh, is there something much larger at work here that we can't really see with our eyes? Is there something immaterial or supernatural at work? And that seems to be just a natural question, because the the insanity or the madness, of however you want to describe what's been happening over the past 5 years. It's global. So that seems to be a natural way to try to understand what's happening, is you have to broaden the lens and ask the question, there must be something supernatural at work here.
Yes. Let me also say, we need to make this disclaimer for sure. Not every atheist is a technocrat, first off. We can't pin that on them. Not every engineer is a technocrat. Can't pin that on everybody. If you look at every scientist, not every scientist wants to control the world and do humanity in. These people who adhere to technocracy and transhumanism, they're a separate class of people. They think differently than other people in the world, and their view is essentially, as I said, mechanistic. They don't leave any room for God or any other religion, for that matter, that would take away the focus from them. So, just saying, I want to give a hats off to all the scientists, engineers, technicians who are on this broadcast right now. We're not attacking you because you don't want to control the world. Remember the song that Tears with Fears did years ago? Everybody wants to control the world. Well, it's true in one sense, but not everybody really does want to control the world. But however, these technocrats and these transhumanists have brought it to the level of an art form at this point.
So I have a question now for, I'm going to ask Lissa, I'm going to start with you, but I also want to ask Daniel and David the same question. And that is, I have received tremendous both inspiration and optimism from your work. And part of it is the insights that I get, but also part of it is the fearlessness. And I know somewhere back before I met or read all of you, something happened, some inflection point that we all face, and many people listening have faced or are going to face, which is, this is not okay. I'm going to do something about this. I can do something about this. I intend to be free. That impulse we feel so strongly from all of your work. And so let's get a little bit more intimate and go back beyond the great scholarship and look at what happened to you that inspired you to do this amazing thing. So, Lissa, I'll start with you.
I guess, I mean, as I was talking about in the presentation, I used the word accuracy, but I guess, really, truth is another way to put it, which is difficult to pin down. But meaning and truth and love, those things that make us human, for me, that's really what drives it. And thinking about future generations and their children and their children, for me, it's largely that feeling a strong responsibility to the generations that are coming next, and a sense that if you can see something, when you start to be able to see it, and for me it started, well, when COVID hit, I was very confused. So as I said, I started. I was clear that it was a psychological operation, but confused about where it was coming from and what it was all about. And then once I started to understand, there's a choice. Either you keep that to yourself, which means that you're hiding it from other people and you're robbing them of the opportunity to stand up against it and make sense of the world that they're walking through and leading their children through. So, yeah, I think for me, it's once I started to understand and see things, it sort of almost isn't a choice to withhold that from people.
So, Daniel, what about you?
Well, a couple of things. I remember I lost my mom when she was 60, and I was 20, and I last time I saw her, she was on her deathbed, and her last words were to me, uh, "Danny, you know, always tell the truth." And that really stuck with me. I had heard that my whole life, and yeah, I think it's really important to tell the truth, no matter how difficult it is. You know, no matter what situation you're in. I think it's personally, it's important to tell the truth and to stand up for the truth and be honest. Um, and Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." So I think if you live by that, you can be reassured that when you're standing up for the truth, that uh, you'll have no fear. And I think that's really helped me over the past 4 or 5 years. As Lisa said, in late 2019, when the first reports were coming out, I had a kind of visceral reaction to the reports coming out of China, hair standing up on the back of my neck, and I just had this sense that someone was lying, and I made it my my mission at that time to really dig into what's going on behind the scene and to get to the truth about this. So that's what's it's really motivating me.
Okay, David, your turn.
So I was on a research sabbatical when COVID hit, and I was about 70% of the way through writing a book on international relations theory. But as the developments unfolded, and in particular with the introduction of face masks that July of 2020, I was just so viscerally disgusted with what was happening. I realized that there was something very badly wrong. I saw that there were continuities with 9/11 and some of the psychological operations and the techniques that were used there. And at that point, I just very quietly put down everything that I was doing, and I thought I just have to resist now, and have to try and put my skills and abilities in service of challenging what is patently evil. What was unfolding, what was so tyrannical and oppressive. And I had colleagues who said, if you do this kind of work, it won't serve your academic career well. And I appreciated that at the time. I knew the sacrifices that would largely be entailed, and I did it anyway. Because in a sense, what's the point in, for example, me having spent 8 years studying German history and culture, if I can't bring any of that knowledge about the Nazi past to bear to show that what has been unfolding has real, direct, and explainable similarities with 1930s Germany? And what's the point in knowing something about how psychological operations work if I'm just going to stay stum? And of course, all of the professions at that time were falling into line. It was a kind of ideological conformity, which itself goes back to Nazi Germany and the Gleichschaltung phenomenon. So I knew the risks that were attached, but it rapidly became kind of vocational also in the religious sense, because you're dealing really with ultimate questions of meaning and, what's my life for? Why did I go into academia in the first place? It was about the pursuit of the truth, wherever that might lead. And unfortunately, I found myself in a system where you can't fearlessly pursue the truth. There's all kinds of obstacles in the way. So, yeah, I remember I think it was around September 2020, I was listening to a podcast by Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, the Canadian independent broadcaster. And that was when I first came across the Ephesians passage about putting on the armor of God. And that really resonated with me because I was so, when you choose to do this, it's not easy. It's a bit like choosing to walk the wrong way around a store, not wearing a mask in 2020. There's tremendous pressures and it's very difficult. And I realized at that time that this kind of work can only really be done with some kind of divine blessing or protection. And so that's when I just went for it. And predictably enough, my academic career has now come to an end. But at the same time, my kind of vocation to get to the truth of things and put my skills and abilities to use and in service of humanity and in service of freedom, they have rapidly escalated. So it's been quite a journey.
Okay, so one more question from the live stream. One person said, "Emergencies, emergencies. The next step, the next shock in implementing technocracy always comes with an emergency, and we see the leadership preparing all different sorts of emergencies. Does anybody have a theory on what the next emergency might be?"
I've got two possibilities that I've highlighted recently on my Substack.
Take it away.
One is on my piece about weaponization of the food and water supplies, in which I draw attention to, I think it's a UCL professor by the surname of Mazzucato, who spoke at the World Economic Forum at the end of 2022, I think it was. And she was talking then about, she was quite open, as they often are at these forums. The vaccinations didn't really go to plan. We didn't get as many people injected as we wanted. Everybody knows that the climate change thing just isn't working. So what we really need is something more persuasive, something like water. Everybody knows how important water is. And I looked at that and I thought, is this kind of sounding the alarm for coming water shortages? Because you can often read what they do at places like the World Economic Forum, and then it gets passed down later on. And then one of my subscribers, after I mentioned this in one of my monthly dial-in meetings, actually forwarded me a document from either an investment bank or a fund manager or something of this nature, in which they are actually laying out investment policy according to the possibility of coming water shortages. So that said to me, are we looking at imminent artificially manufactured water shortages with the disaster capitalists already predicting them, positioning themselves? So that's one possibility. The other that I've also examined in a recent Substack article is the giant cyber attack that Klaus Schwab has been warning about. And I think this goes hand in hand with attempts to roll out a new financial system and the move towards CBDC and so on. But they need to create the impression that the internet is oh so vulnerable. And if some kind of massive disaster were to befall it, then it might only be reopened again with kind of military grade cyber protocols involved, which would mean, no more anonymous accessing of the internet or anything like that. Everything will be monitored and controlled. And we know how the conditioning and the priming and the predictive programming and so on works. And what have we seen really since 2019 when this kind of agenda was first announced in policy documents? But one kind of cyber crisis or cyber attack after the next. So the public mind has already been prepared for this. And so if that were to happen, it would not surprise me in the slightest.
I'd have to agree with David. If you look back at the cyber polygon exercises, if you go back through those simulations, it seems to me that these will help fill in a lot of the mysteries of what's on the horizon. Communication has to be controlled top down. And I think, we communicate largely through the internet these days. I think they've been telegraphing to us that censorship, something is coming. Censorship is one of the plans for the masses, but it seems that the internet or the electric grid electric grids around the world will be the next crisis, and that will precipitate probably some kind of control mechanism over our future access to the internet, some sort of IDs or biometric IDs to access internet services and et cetera. I think to add to that, my I've my interest in understanding the entire story has really expanded to eschatological writings, and a lot of the scholars that I've been reading suggest that something quite interesting could be on the horizon right after the UN's upcoming meeting on the Pact for the Future. So that is probably, it seems like that would be something to look out for.
Anyone want to comment on the UN Pact or some of the other international plans to assert central control? We're seeing extraordinary pushback in the United States in both the Senate and the House. And 2 years ago we would have thought it was impossible, and yet here we are. And we've been able, some of the groups have been able to really beat back provisions in some of the WHO plans. We'll see what happens with the UN.
The interesting thing about that is, Catherine, that even though we are pushing back, and American citizens especially who just hate this thing, how dare they say they're going to determine our future, their plan our future? Well, yeah, senators, congressmen, everybody up and down the line hates it in our country, but the United States, remember, the financing that the United States gives to the United Nations basically keeps them in existence. If we,
Yes.
in fact, Trump in his first term wanted to cut all funding to the United Nations. Amen to that. But it hasn't been done. No funding has been removed, especially when Biden reversed anything that Trump did in the first place. And they still are continuing to give money to our taxpayer money to the United Nations to turn around and kill us with this Pact for the Future nonsense. It's absolutely outrageous.
So I want to make that even worse, because it's not just our tax dollars. If you look at the majority of money flowing into the US government, it's coming through treasury bonds from pension funds and retirement savings, both in the US and all over the world. So we are watching our retirement savings essentially finance the building of the control grid. It's
Yes,
quite astonishing.
yes,
Okay,
very,
now
very interesting.
you've all listened to the presentations, and as much as you work together, and I want to talk about how the study group came together. As much as you work together, I know every time you go through this content, you have questions. So, any questions or things you want to bring out, Daniel, David, Lissa, Patrick, from watching the presentations today?
Wow, that's a good one.
I have a,
I would. You go, Dan.
sorry, go ahead, Lissa.
Well, I mean, I'm interested to hear what Patrick says about how the material that I was talking about fits in with the technocrats and, say, the Trilateral Commission, because, I mean, I was focusing on the military intelligence world, but I don't necessarily see that as kind of the instigators or the architects of the whole thing. So I'm interested to know if Patrick has any thoughts about how those two things fit together.
And Patrick,
Let
I
me,
would like to mention you had one of the definitive looks early on at the Bank of International Settlements and the sovereign immunities of international organizations. So you can tie it into that too.
exactly. You know, our purpose of doing this symposium was not to make the definitive, standalone, explanation of the world. That's not my intent for sure, and I don't think it's the intent of any of us. What we want to do is stimulate the global discussion, a sensible, balanced, researched, factual discussion on this concept of an omni-war. If this has been something that will do that, we will be successful in our endeavor here. We might have future symposiums as well. There might be other speakers that come in with us to the study group. But what we have to do at this point is to stake our flag in the ground to say this needs to be a global discussion now, not tomorrow, not next year, but now. So I see already people coming aside of us. I won't mention any names at this point, but I know everybody here has somebody who has approached them recently on wanting to be involved. And hey, how can I take a look at this? Whatever. I see what you're saying. I want to study it. Can you help me? Blah blah blah. This could be a pivotal event in history for the world and for the United States as well.
So I want to ask you guys about the study group on technology and power. So the symposium is presented by the study group on technology and power. And my impression, and it comes from working with Lissa in wonderful circumstances, but watching a real resistance to asking the questions about what in the world are these mysterious ingredients that somebody's getting into our body? What are they? What's their purpose? And how do they relate to the telecommunication systems and other invisible weaponry? And it's almost, Lissa, you've certainly seen it. It's almost like that is a topic that everybody is afraid to, or many people are afraid to touch. And yet, exploring that topic and asking about that topic is part of the breakthrough we need to make if we're going to really understand the control grid. So I want to know how the study group came together and what the key issues were that brought you together. So tell us a little bit about your history.
David?
Okay, well, from my perspective, it all began following the publication of my book, COVID-19 Psychological Operations and the War for Technocracy. And I was delighted when Patrick got in touch with me and was willing to endorse what I had said about technocracy, which I was very pleased about. It meant I portrayed it accurately, but was also interested in collaborating. And so we had a very pleasant 1 hour call to get to know one another. And Patrick was also then curious about my co-authors, Dan and Lissa. So I introduced him to Dan and Lissa. And between us, we formulated the idea of doing, in the first instance, a symposium to bring some kind of scholarly expertise to bear on some of these very contentious and difficult issues. It was Lissa who actually came up with the name of the study group, and I think it's quite brilliant because it's sufficiently broad that we can capture a wide audience with it, but it also plays somewhat, however inadvertently, on the original technocracy study course. So there's kind of links there, except obviously we're trying to subvert everything that technocracy stands for. So that's kind of the origins in brief, but it's been a real pleasure working with these guys and putting this material together.
Let me tell you how, this is my opinion. The only reason that we could get together is none of us, not one of us, are alarmists. I don't have that body. I don't have that gene in my body. No, none of us do. And it was so delightful to have a decent discussion without getting weird, like the sky is falling sort of thing. That really, I think that really kind of cemented our study group. This is, not to toot our own horn here, but we need to take a balanced approach to this thing. And we need to somehow make sure that we don't get involved with rabbit holes, with conspiracy theories that really are off the wall. They're all over the place right now, unfortunately. But we want to rein in those things and bring those people into our tent to really understand what's going on. We have the goods. We know we can see it ourselves between us. We've validated that several times over. We can see what's going on when people come into us and they, take a look at whatever we've put out here on it. It's undeniable. You can't unsee it once you see it. So that was part of my draw, for sure, of getting involved with these people. And it's been a pleasure to do so, I have to say.
I'd also just add that part of the rationale for the formation of this group has to do with the failure of academia to address certain taboo topics going all the way back to 9/11 and probably earlier. And this has been really problematic because there's a huge amount of research which simply hasn't been done. And had it been done, many of the lies would have been exposed. The public would be thinking very differently about many issues. So in a sense, we're kind of following in the wake of a real failure here of the academic profession to speak truth to power in any meaningful sense in the 21st century.
Just to follow up on that, one of the things that makes this difficult to cover is the sheer amount of evidence. And it's kind of funny that there are so many out there sort of explanations, as you say, Patrick, because once you start putting information together, the problem is that there's so much evidence. It's just very difficult to summarize and collate and get through. So, which, is relevant to what David's saying, that although all this information is out there and in the public domain, it's just sitting there. It hasn't been, it hasn't been researched, and I think that's sort of the reverse of what most people's perception is about this kind of subject matter. That it's people's active imaginations projecting into empty spaces what they imagine to be there, and it's quite the reverse. It's quite the reverse. There's so much evidence that it's overwhelming.
Yeah. Let me say also that this is a global presentation. I don't know if everybody got that, but this is truly a global presentation in terms of scope, but also in our geographic locations. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, as you know. Right here, it's 10:39 in the morning. New York City is 3 hours later. David is in London or thereabouts, and it's 6:30 his time, so he's ready for dinner. And poor old Daniel down there, and he's over in Tokyo, right, in Japan, where it's now 2:35 or 2:40 in the morning. Wow.
3:30 for me.
And then poor Lissa, whose eyelids are getting heavy because it's 3:30 in the morning for her. And this has really been a global production in that sense, that we're all from different time zones and for different continents as well. And I know I think you're in the States now, Catherine.
Normally I'm in the Netherlands, but right now I'm in Wisconsin.
Exactly. So you could represent Europe, I suppose, continental Europe. But in any case, I appreciate that everybody in here is making some type of a sacrifice to be involved with this thing in the first place. And it's been a pleasure to do that also. Very cool.
Well, but this is important because freedom fighters and allies are everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is a global phenomena, and it will be won or lost globally. If we emerge into a complete totalitarian dictatorship of the kind described brilliantly by the study group, or whether it fails. And I, for one, I continue to be the perpetual optimist. I truly believe the technocrats ultimately will fail, and I do not underestimate the tremendous damage they can do before they do. But I continue to be an optimist. So, anybody want to make the case for optimism? Because I know you all can.
Well, yes. I mean, their entire control system is premised on lies, and what we're trying to deliver here is truth. They are attacking everything of value in life, truth and love and freedom. Whatever you hold dear in life, it's now under attack from what is relatively a very small group of people in the world. Yes, they're very powerful, but they're also very small. So there's many aspects of these unfolding agendas that we can challenge through our own agency and through our own refusal to go along with these technocratic agendas. And just remember, you never underestimate the difference that you personally can make. If someone would have told me a year or two ago that I'd be doing this today, I never would have believed it. But once you start putting one foot after the other on that kind of path to freedom, it's amazing what avenues unfold. So just go for it.
Yeah,
One thing
I'd have
add to that. Sorry, Dan,
sorry.
you go.
No, those
I
all.
was just going to add that I think all of this is similar to what you're saying, David, but really founded on an underestimation of humans. Human beings are unpredictable, unlike robots, and they're unprogrammable, unlike robots. And I think the strength of our love and connection to each other and our quest for meaning and our creativity and the things that make us human are really sort of being massively underestimated and aren't so easily put down and suppressed, even with technology. But as you say, Catherine, a lot of harm can be done trying. So it's incredibly important that we find that human spirit and rise to the challenge. But yeah, that gives me hope. The fact that humans aren't, they're irrepressible and they're unpredictable.
So, Daniel?
Yeah, I guess, well, that my answer is related to your previous question as well. I think the way that our group has come together is really just a natural consequence of our collective love for the truth. I believe wholeheartedly in every fiber of my being that truth will certainly prevail in the end. Um, who knows what that'll look like? How the war for truth will unfold, and how many people will have to sacrifice. How many people will sacrifice their lives for truth? But I really believe that I'm very optimistic that truth will definitely prevail. Um, I, I've been teaching for 30 years now, and when I in early 2020, when they first started talking about, the PR machine started ramping up to kind of coerce students to fall in line, it really shook me. And I just love teaching, and I love my students, and to see them, line up like they did and not really understand what's going on or the whole picture, it really tore me up inside. And I just vowed that I wouldn't stop until I got to the truth, and really understood what's really happening. That's what really has motivated me.
Wow. Very good.
So I sent a chat to Logan and said, "Can you come in?" Because Patrick,
Yes.
you and I are the elders here, and then we have Lissa and David and Daniel, who are, say, a
And
generation or a generation and a
yeah,
half down. We need to hear from the up and coming generation. So, Logan, we're going to put you on the spot. You've been listening and doing a wonderful job producing this whole show. Any thoughts or questions you have for the panel? What does it look like from your point of view, representing the younger generation?
Well, I just want to say I learned a lot, and I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch some of this stuff just to digest everything that was there. But one thing I was wanted to say, kind of what Daniel was just saying, or not Daniel, sorry, yeah, Daniel, talking about how people in my generation, a lot of the kids my age don't know what's going on. I mean, when during COVID they lined up to get their shots, and they're all interested in what's going on in pop culture and sports, and I just feel like there's a need to educate people in my generation for sure. Um, and I think today was very informative, and I'm gonna rewatch it. That's for sure. I would
Well,
like to
you're
also get
certainly
many
making.
clips out to as many people as well.
That's what I was going to say. We need shorties, lots and lots of shorties. But one of the questions we're getting in the chat is when will the videos be available and where do they find them? Can you answer that for us?
Yes, the streams on Rumble, once they're done, you can rewatch them right away. So once we stop,
Okay.
it takes time. It takes a little bit of time for Rumble to die, like they do something, and then you're able to go back and rewatch it. And then we'll be posting it on World YouTube as well, full, and then we'll be posting or cutting a bunch of clips from it, putting it on our social media, sharing it with Patrick to put out on his social media. Anyone else who wants to post it out on their social media will be posting many clips. And we're also going to be cutting it into segments as well on World YouTube.
Great.
But right away after probably 30 minutes after this, I think on Rumble you can start going back and rewatching.
Right, and it's live streaming on the Worldview Tube and on Technocracy News on CHT TV. And so you can find it at the Rumbles on all of those different channels.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how you can find it. There is a wealth of information at the websites represented here. So can we go around and just, we'll start with you, Patrick. Can you describe how to access the material at Technocracy News and some of your other websites? And then let's go around to Daniel, then David, then Lissa.
Yeah, you bet. Technocracy.news is my professional website, and everything pertaining to technocracy is there. We have a page there, //Omniwar, that'll be the hub for things for the next few weeks, perhaps. We're going to launch a new website for the study group. And so probably that information will be moved over for that, but right now that's where it is. All my books can be bought in paperback form on my website, but I can't do the Kindle and the audio books and so on. They're all available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble as well, and Apple, whatever, Apple Music or whatever it is as well. And I also should mention that I have a Substack account, patrickwood.substack.com. And I have another website. I just mentioned it briefly that about this here, propaganda brochure. That's Citizens for Free Speech. You see a little logo right here, citizensforfreespeech.org. And you can go there and find out about the war on free speech because this is going to be the first thing that goes, by the way, and they're trying to kill free speech by the end of 2024. We don't have much time to fight it, but nevertheless, that's what it is.
Patrick, will the presentations, the PowerPoint presentations, be available up at the Omniwar section at Technocracy News?
Yes, they will. We're going to put the slide decks into, well, actually it won't be the PowerPoint slides, but the PDF slides. We're going to put them up on technocracy.news/Omniwar, and it'll live there. And, you know, we decided at first, well, we'd like to charge for it because this is kind of proprietary in one sense. But we decided we're just going to ask for a contribution. If you want it, you don't have any money, whatever, you don't think it's worth anything, then don't give us any money. But if you want to give a small donation, whatever, it would help for expenses going forward. We're going to have to pay for this new website, hosting services, et cetera, et cetera. So being as generous as you can, I guess, and say, go for it. But we want to put all this information in. We don't want to hide anything from anybody. So all of the videos in the end will be put up. It'll take some time, probably 2 weeks, to get the videos sliced sliced apart, to put them in presentation form on the website, and we'll put them on Rumble and everywhere else, 1 hour at a time, or whatever, 50-minute presentation. So this is going to be all kind of taken care of probably in the next two weeks.
Okay, and David, you want to describe how we access your materials again?
Okay, so the best place to find my work is Substack, dhughes.substack.com. So there's a raft of interviews and articles and presentations available there. If you would like to support my work, please visit my website, davidahughes.net/support, or perhaps buymeacoffee.com/DAHughes. I'd also just finally like to thank everybody in the chat who's been making some very supportive and helpful comments today, and some excellent questions. So thank you, everyone who's been watching and commenting.
Daniel?
If you're interested in some of the other work that I'm doing, you can visit ResearchGate and just do a search for my name. Some of the scholarly work in propaganda. And also, I have been writing about the, I guess, the narratives that are surrounding the COVID jabs, as it were. I'm an editor on the editorial board for Propaganda in Focus. Piers Robinson and Mark Crispin Miller are fellow co-editors. If you're interested in doing a deep dive on propaganda studies, I would encourage you to check out Propaganda in Focus. I was also invited as a reviewer on the review board for International Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice, and Research. That's what I've been busy with quite a bit recently. So some really interesting articles there, interdisciplinary work, not just in biology, but in philosophy, theory. Lots of really, really interesting work that's going on in that journal as well. So if you're interested in those areas, I welcome you.
Now, Alyssa, I know you've been publishing at Technocracy News. Any other sources where we can find your work?
Well, the 4-part transhumanism series is on propagandainfocus.com and technocracy.news, so you can go to either of those places. On Propaganda in Focus, just click on the Technocracy tab and you'll see the four parts that Dan and David and I wrote. But yeah, nothing else to add to those two things. I just want to say that it's a real privilege to be here with all of you, and thank you to all of you, and thank you to the viewers and the commenters and questions.
So now I'm going to ask you, we have time for a 1-minute closing comment from each of you, and Logan, I'm going to make you come back and represent the younger generation again. So Patrick, why don't we start with the elders? We'll start with you, and then we'll come around.
You bet.
1-minute closing, Dave.
You bet. Leave us all in a screen together, Logan, so I can see everybody. Awesome. And by the way, Logan has his hands on all the switches and the buttons to make everything happen. You can't imagine what's in his brain, but he's quick. Fortunately for us, he is quick. But let me just say in closing, for me at least, I think probably I speak for everybody else as well, but why do we do what we do? Oh. That's the $64,000 question, right? Why do we do what we do? You mentioned Catherine, optimism. I'm always bent towards optimism, but there are times when it's really hard to be optimistic about something, whatever it might be. There's so many things we can look at and say, oh, that's not gonna fly, not gonna happen, whatever. And why do we do what we do? Well, I learned a long time ago that it's not necessarily that you're ever going to win any particular battle. You might not. You might end up being really hurt on something, on some particular battle. We do what we do because it's the right thing to do, period. Not because we're going to win a war or even win a battle or a skirmish, but if it's the right thing to do, you have to do it, period. And if you do that consistently, not expecting any particular results, I'm going to be bummed out or I'll be depressed if I don't get my way on this or that or whatever. Forget that. If you just stay true to the truth and to what you want to present in the first place, you'll do so much good for yourself and all the people around you who are discouraged and messed up and in the weeds and etc. When you model that kind of behavior for them, I'm only doing this because it's the right thing to do, and let the chips fall for wherever they will. That's my basic exhortation. The other thing, of course, is pray. At this point in history, especially for Christians, you need to be in your Bible, you need to pray, and you need to get yourself right with your Creator. Now's the time to do that, not later, not tomorrow, not next year, whatever. Now's the time to get in touch with your Creator and your Lord. And where it goes at this point, we don't know for sure. We don't know all the specifics. We know it's going to get worse. It's going to be more intense. We know AI is coming at us like a freight train. Nevertheless, we do what we do. We'll continue to do what we do, and we want to model this for the world as well. This presentation for all of us, we're making a joint statement for the whole world, all the continents of the world, that hey, we're all in this together. We've all banded together to make a global presentation to you people for all around the world. And I guarantee you, we have listeners right now in every continent on the world, around the world. Japan, Asia, Europe, England, everywhere. Africa. I bet you that we're going to see some people show up in China and Russia as well. So, we're making a statement today that, hey, we can do this if we stay true to the truth, if you will, and we can make a difference. We really can make a difference.
Okay, Daniel, to you.
I would just reiterate what Patrick is saying. What's really helped me over the past 5 years is prayer. It just defies logic, defies my interest in the science. So many examples, I can't even cite them all, that my fervent prayer for my friends and my family, relatives, even my enemies. I just I still believe firmly that God is in the business of answering prayers, and I'm just here to testify that all the work that I've been doing is really bearing fruit. So I just want to leave the audience with that sort of hope.
David, you're next.
The most common injunction in the Bible, I believe, is do not fear. And we need to take that away with us today, as well as the message of hope that Patrick and Dan have just given us. Everybody knows that the truth wins out in the end. It's almost a platitude to say that. The trouble is that in today's world, we're living in a kind of ocean of deceit. The lies are everywhere. It doesn't make the truth any less true. And so we have to diligently maintain our focus on that, because the lies will fall, they will be exposed, and with it, the control system will also be exposed. And so this is an omni-war. It's being waged against us in an undeclared, malicious, and malevolent manner. But we can definitely win this war, most definitely. Once enough people understand what exactly is going on here, the situation can change almost overnight. So my books are both dedicated to all who are actively resisting the global technocratic coup. And my closing comment would be, you too, please do actively resist the global technocratic coup.
Lissa?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, in that we've all worked hard to bring together information and make it digestible and accessible for everybody watching and reading. And then one of the reasons for making the slides available is so that people can have that information, use it, make it their own, look into it, build on it. And in this omnivore, I guess the information is our self-defense. And as we said, we need to understand what we're facing if we're going to resist it and contend with it. And so we're kind of offering a great big, what would you call it, arsenal of material for self-defense. And I really encourage people to take it up. And you know, as Patrick said at the beginning, use their talents and use your own particular style, talents, interests. Use the information whatever way you can, but we're making it available to you so that you can use it.
Logan?
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off some of them as well. Is stay in the Bible and to know that, I mean, we'll win in the end, but that doesn't mean we don't resist or fight back against them. And I think one of the best ways to do that would be to educate and reach out to as many people as you can, which this information that they put out today, and share it out to as many people as you can to help resist and fight back against the people who are trying to take over.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank the Patrick and the study group on technology and power for all this work and for putting on this amazing panel. Thank you, Logan, for all your production work. Just remember, Omniwar, you're in it. We're in it together. We're applying to win, and our prayers are with you. So, ladies and
Amen.
gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful day or evening, depending on where you are in the world.